Welcome to Pause and Respond. I'm Josh Ryan, a licensed counselor, and this podcast is about what happens in the moments before we react, the moments that often determine whether things get better or worse for us. If you've ever said, "That's not how I wanted to handle this," or "I don't know why I reacted like that," you're in the right place. This isn't about suppressing emotions or forcing calm. It's about learning how to pause long enough to choose a response that you can stand behind, a response that doesn't produce resentment or fear or bothered feelings afterwards. Most people don't struggle because they don't know better. They struggle because reaction happens faster than awareness. Anger shows up before thinking. Defensiveness shows up before listening. Shutdown shows up before words are even spoken. By the time we realize what's happening, the damage is often already done to relationships, to trust, and to sometimes how we even feel about ourselves. In my work as a professional counselor, I've noticed something consistent. Real change doesn't start with insight, motivation, or even discipline. It starts with space. A pause, even a small one, changes what's possible. We're taught almost from the beginning that emotions are something to manage quickly. If you're upset, calm down. If you're angry, control it. If you're overwhelmed, just push through. But what we're rarely taught is how to create enough space for any of those things to actually happen. Most reactions aren't choices, they're learned responses. They're patterns built over years, sometimes decades, shaped by stress, relationships, and earlier experiences where reacting felt necessary for protection or to reestablish some type of control. So when people tell you, just don't react, it really misses the point. By the time you're reacting, the nervous system has already taken over. That's why the pause matters so much. The pause isn't about stopping the emotion, it's about interrupting the momentum. Without a pause, reactions are automatic. They come from habit, not intention, from survival, not values. With a pause, even a brief one, something shifts. You regain access to parts of yourself that disappear when you begin to feel flooded. You regain perspective, restraint, curiosity, even self respect. This is where people get stuck. They think the pause that means doing nothing, but the pause is active. It's a moment of internal alignment. It asks yourself, even unconsciously, how do I want to handle this? That question doesn't exist when you're just reacting. It only shows up when there's space. And that's why fixing comes second to awareness. If you try to fix behavior without building a pause, you will end up relying on willpower. And willpower always loses under stress. Change doesn't start with discipline, it starts with slowing the reaction just enough to actually see it. Before we go any further, I want to slow this down for a moment because the idea of pausing can sound abstract, almost theoretical, especially if you're used to reacting fast just to get through things. It can feel like something that makes sense in conversation, but disappears the moment emotions show up. So instead of talking about the pause as an idea, let's talk about how it actually shows up in real moments. The physical signals, the internal shifts, the small choices that happen right before a reaction takes over. That's where this work becomes real. That's where change actually starts. Let's make this practical. The pause usually doesn't happen when things are calm. It happens when something feels threatening, whether it be emotionally, relationally, or even internally. Maybe it's a comment that hits a nerve, a tone that feels dismissive, a moment where you feel misunderstood or disrespected. Your body responds to those events before your mind does. You might notice your jaw tightening, your chest heating up, your breathing getting shallow, your thoughts narrowing. That's the moment most people miss. They think the problem is what they say next, but the real work is recognizing that moment, the physical sign that you're about to react. The pause doesn't have to be dramatic. It might look like not responding right away, taking one slow breath, softening your posture, saying, I need a second. Sometimes the pause is internal, sometimes it's verbal. Either way, the goal isn't silence, it's to create choice. The pause gives you time to ask, is this worth reacting to the same way I always do? What happens if I don't escalate this? What response will I respect myself for later? You won't always get it right. Pausing doesn't guarantee some perfect response. It just increases the odds that you won't make things worse. And sometimes that's enough. And over time, those small pauses add up. They change patterns, they rebuild trust, they change how you experience yourself under pressure. They change how others experience you under pressure. That's what we're building here. Not perfection, not emotional suppression, just enough pause to respond on purpose and with choice. For this week, don't try to fix anything. Just notice when reactions show up, what your body does right before you react, what moments feel hardest to pause in. You don't need to change it yet. At the beginning, awareness is the work. This podcast is about building that pause slowly, realistically, and without shame. If this resonates, the Pause and Respond book goes deeper into the framework and gives structure to what we'll talk about here. You can learn more at pauseandrespond.com. Thanks for listening. And remember, less reaction equals more choices.